All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's financial aid session. We're joined here today by. All right. Now I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me, but it's Rini.
Weather, weather. Think of the weather.
Weather?
Rainy Jewett.
Rainy. All right. Yeah. All right. So there was a lot of pressure because one, we've talked multiple times on the phone, and she has literally stated that her name is Rainy. And then when I logged in today, I said, "Hello, Renee," because it's spelled Rene. And then there was a lot of pressure right there to get that correct as well. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's financial aid session that is going to be led by Rainy out of Raider Connect. So this information session is one to help educate you all on and walk you through the steps of being able to apply for financial aid. The other piece of it is also introducing some of the scholarships that are held through the Belinga Center, what scholarships you would potentially be qualified for, but then also too how to learn more information about those opportunities, but then also too to also walk you through how to search for employment opportunities at the university because we have a lot of students who have federal work study dollars but don't necessarily use those. So federal work study, even though it's not money being given directly to you, it's a great way to be able to get a job on campus where you can literally work and study at the same time. Some job opportunities may do a little bit better of a balance between the study piece of it than others, but still, it's a great opportunity to work on campus and not have to go off of campus to find a job somewhere. So, with not all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, and those who don't subscribe to gender norms and all those other different things, I introduce to you Rainy, the man. I'm just like all over the place.
Well, thank you, Mr. Scott. See how I got around that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let me go ahead and present my thing. I'm Rainy Jewett. I've been with Rate State for 12 years. I work in Raider Connect. We do the enrollment services of bursar, registrar, and financial aid. We are kind of like the general let's know it all type people. So don't be surprised if I start sharing other stuff that isn't just Raider Connect, because we kind of like answer a lot of questions throughout the whole thing. We really want to just talk to you a little bit about financial aid, what you need to know, and how to do some things. So if I can get my slideshow to start, we will be good, right? There we go. So, what is financial aid? It consists of funds provided to students and family to help pay for post-secondary education, so college. The reason we want to say that is because people think that financial aid is to pay everything. It's to help subsidize paying for your college life. Okay. So every year, the Department of Education puts together what we call a cost of attendance. And this is the maximum that we're allowed to give to a student based on the number of terms they're attending Wright State, as to if they're going summer, fall, spring, or if they're just going fall, spring. We look at the tuition, room and board, cost of books, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses to come together for a budget. Normally, it runs about if you're living on campus or off campus, it's usually running around $12,000 to $13,000 a term. If you're living with your parents at home, then it's closer to about $9,000 per term. Keep in mind those numbers change every year. I've seen it go from, 7,000 to 9,000, so every year they take into consideration the cost of living and things like that. It's not just it's a cut and dry this number. They do look at all of the possibilities that go with it. So, what is an expected family contribution? We want to kind of look at this. This is what you will actually look at coming from filing the FAFSA. It measures what the Department of Education says the student should be able to contribute and the parents should be able to contribute to help pay for schooling. So it kind of measures where everything is, how many are in the household, all the different aspects of how much income there is, and all the other pieces of the puzzle. It uses 26 different pieces of information. So when you say, if I make this amount of money, will my expected family contribution be there? I have no idea because it has to go through all the other pieces also. So Mr. Scott, if you can play the questions for me, I will be happy to answer them as we go if you want, or you want to wait till the end.
Yeah, if there's a question, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay. So we take the thing of the cost of attendance, what we are allowed to give you based on the Department of Education, minus the expected family contribution, and then we look at what is left as your financial need. So we go into all of these different pieces. We're going to look at how to satisfy some of that financial need. So the types of financial aid are gift aid, which we talk about, which is scholarships and grants. That is free money, money you never have to return to anyone unless you withdraw completely. Then we have to look at what the stipulations on those types of things are as to what, like if you have a private scholarship, they have requirements sometimes. But we always look at the whole picture. So, and then there's the self-help aid. Loans are considered financial aid. People are always like, but it's a loan. That's not financial aid. Yes, it is, because the Department of Education is giving you a loan at a reduced rate, interest rate, and it's a guaranteed loan. There is no credit check or anything like that. They say we will hand you this money based off of the FAFSA. Then we have that work study employment aspect. This is something that a lot of students sign up for, but they never partake in. So we're going to talk about this a little bit towards the end, but I just want you to realize it is considered self-help aid because if you're working, you get a paycheck. Do you put the paycheck in the bank and save it to help pay your tuition for next term? Or do you spend it on coffee? You know, there's a lot of them that do that. But you know, it's one of those things, it's going to help you in the future. So there's different sources of financial aid. There's federal, state, college and university, private, and employers. I always want people to remember that the FAFSA will get you the federal and the state, and it can sometimes help you with some of the college aid. Um, there are a lot of scholarships and different types of things that have aspects of the FAFSA in it that says if they file the FAFSA, you can qualify for this scholarship. Or if you have, you know, an expected family contribution below this number, you can qualify for additional WSU need-based grants. There's lots of things that they look at. All of these are always changing every year as to what the guidelines for them are. And we try to be very careful of not saying this is a set in stone number because the Department of Education is very known to not tell us until the last minute what they are going to give us for that year. Keep in mind, private sources are also very important. That is things such as going out on the internet, searching for scholarships, um, looking at, you know, employers, your employer, your parents' employers. There are a lot of different other places that you can get money from that people don't look at. There are some churches that give aid to students based on them being a member of the church. You know what I mean? So keep in mind to look at other things. Not all the money has to come from the university itself. You can always look at outside entities.
And before you go on, Aja asked a question. Do you get a W-2 for work study?
Yes, yes, you do. Because it is a paycheck and we are still required to take out federal and state taxes. And so you would file a tax return, but the good thing about it is if you're working federal work study and you file a tax return, you usually get like almost all your money back from the IRS. So definitely file. Even if you only make $3,000, file because you'll probably get that that money that you paid into the government back.
I wish
Okay?
I wish that our jobs were work study.
Oh, don't I too? I would be really happy, okay?
Yeah. Good question though, Aja.
Very good. Okay, so we want everybody to do the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. So it is open at this time. It opened October 1st every year. And so this is something that you must reapply for yearly. Don't assume that you did it once and you're good for the life of your time at school. It does not work that way. Right now for the 22-23 academic year, we are using the 2020 tax information. So there should be no reason that people don't have their taxes filed because you had to file, let's see here, last April? Was that? I know they changed all those deadlines this year. I can't remember what the last deadline was, but technically April. Um, we want you to make sure you file the FAFSA prior to February 1st so that you meet all of the priority deadlines to qualify for the extra aid. That means federal work study, WSU need-based grants, the Ohio College Opportunity Grants, the federal supplemental opportunity grants. All the different grants that are out there are based on that deadline date. We recommend that you do it now so that you don't forget to do it because that February 1st deadline will come up faster than you think. So in order to file for the FAFSA, there are 5 ways you can file. The easiest way is the FAFSA on the web, where you go out to studentaid.gov and click on the FAFSA link and actually file your FAFSA there. You can also do it via your cell phone. The one thing you're going to find out though is it does not work well on an iPad. There's something in the iPad program that does not allow a pop-up, which will sometimes affect the FAFSA. So you definitely want to use probably a laptop just because it also makes the print bigger and easier to see. So I want to just make sure you realize that, sometimes it can do that. If you do it by paper and mail it in, it can take 6 to 8 weeks for processing. And then you're counting on somebody else typing in those numbers exactly as you wrote them. The FAFSA on the phone, that is really for people that have special needs. They really try to do that. And the CPS line, that is more for special needs situations if you need them. So this is the website, the studentaid.gov website. And under the apply for, under this area right here, the apply for aid area is where you will see complete the FAFSA. Because this is a new school year, you will start a new one with start here. Once you start it in the middle of it, if you have to leave it, you can always come back and then do returning user to get back into where you were. So while you're out there doing the FAFSA, you really need to try to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This is a great tool for keeping you from having to type in all the numbers directly yourself. After you put in your demographics, what schools you want to go to, it'll ask first probably about your parents because most of you are still going to be dependent students. And we're going to talk about when you can use it and when you can't use it, but let's talk a little bit about the program itself. The IRS data retrieval will actually leave the FAFSA and go out to the IRS website. So when you go out there and it asks you about your information, you want your 2020 tax return sitting in front of you. It is a situation where you are match this picture. So if you wrote Susie on your tax return, but you wrote Suzanne on the FAFSA, you're going to change it to what's on the tax form, to Susie. Or if you misspelled a word, you need to misspell it because it's what's wrong with the picture, down to RD period. So it's down to the very last dot. If it goes through, it will give you a chance to transfer the information back, which is great. And then you're not having to do all the, line 22, read line 569, okay, and put the number in there. So it will actually help you with not having to worry about having incorrect numbers. Plus, it will also reduce your chances on for verification, having to produce those actual extra tax documents. So certain tax filers that cannot use the IRS data retrieval, they did not indicate the FAFSA was completed, the tax return was completed. If you didn't complete the tax return, you cannot use it. If you said will not file or going to file, you cannot use the IRS data retrieval because there's no taxes on file with the US government. If you got married after January 1st of 2021, because you would have to add yours and your spouse's tax returns together, so you have to put them in manually. If your first 3 digits of your social security number start out with 666, you cannot use the IRS data retrieval. If you did not file a US tax return, you cannot use the retrieval. We also have the thing of if you are married and filed head of household, or you filed separate returns, once again, you have to add the two of them together to put the information in so you cannot use the retrieval. Or if your parents do not have social security numbers, because there are some undocumented people in the world that do not have social security numbers, so they're going to have to manually put the information in that they used. And of course, the non-married parents or both married parents entered with zeros for social security numbers, we can't use the retrieval. So these are just some of the things that you can't do it with, but I can tell you when I actually go out to the different high schools and I start walking these high school students through, and when you college students come into our office, if you have the tax information there, I can get that tax information to retrieve probably 9 out of 10 times. So it's not as hard as people think. You just have to be very exact in what you're typing. So when you're filing the 22-23 FAFSA, it is based solely on the 2020 tax information. So we realize that this year there have been some big life changes occurring. These are things that you want to actually come in and talk to Rate or Connect about. As to like a dependency override or a FAFSA adjustment because you've lost your job or you had a great inheritance, a cost of attendance petition because you had to buy a new computer because you know, didn't have enough money to pay for it. We can sometimes try to do a cost of adjustments, things like that. Residency. You want to make sure that your residency is correct. If you are an in-state resident and you have been here for the last 5 years and all that stuff, you want to make sure you're paying in-state tuition as long as you are an actual citizen, okay? So things like these, we want to look at each of them separately. If your parents got divorced, where we can take possibly the one parent's information off the FAFSA. Things like that we need to know about. These are things that you want to come in and talk to Rate or Connect about, and we can kind of work with you through them and get you the proper paperwork to start the process.
And a quick question, would you also consider students who are independent students also special circumstances as well?
It depends upon how they become how you're looking at them as independent. If they've lost their job, yes, an independent student can do a FAFSA adjustment if their expected family contribution is not already zero. But if you're talking about trying to go from dependent to independent status because of situations, we need to talk to you
Okay.
because there's paperwork and there's things that we have to have in order to try and do a petition for that.
Okay. And I'm thinking of, so one of the experiences that I have is I used to be in the foster care system, so that was my independent status. So just for the folks who would be potentially watching this later, just so you know, if you are an independent student under those circumstances, that might be a reason to come in and speak with you all.
If you're in foster care, we would never ask about parents' information. We would base it strictly on your information, and they wouldn't even be considered. So yeah, please come talk to us if you have any questions on that because it's really important. We don't want you to miss out on money, but if your expected family contribution is already zero, it cannot go lower. Okay, so I have people come in and say, I need more money, but my expected family contribution is zero. I'm sorry, you've hit the rock bottom. That's it. You got the most you can get. Okay. So something we want to look at is the scholarships. There's institutional scholarships, and we want people to be doing the online scholarship application. It is open now. You want to be doing that. You want to make sure that when you're doing that, that you include your activities, things you've done. Think of all your essays, references. Please make sure to ask your reference if it is okay to use them. I have this thing about when people ask me to write a reference for them and I never even get a notification from them that it's coming in, I sometimes won't even answer it. So if you're asking a professor or you're asking somebody to, write a reference for you, ask their permission first. Do not assume that they will do it for you. This year, we're looking at the scholarship application. There are more than 1,100 donor-based scholarship opportunities this year. So that's a lot of money. It can be anything from a couple $100 all the way up to the price of tuition, depending upon the actual scholarship that is out there. They are very competitive, so you want to write a really strong essay. If you have questions about your essay, have other people read them, have family members read them, have friends read them. Get as much feedback on it before you submit it, and make sure you please, please, please put it through like a Word document and check for spelling. Make sure you spell scholarship correctly.
Mhm.
I had somebody that spelled scholarship, and they were trying to get a scholarship instead of a scholarship. It looks really bad because you're going, oh, I'm trying to give you an academic scholarship and you can't spell the word. Okay, so please, think about those things. You also want to be looking at the external scholarships, the private scholarships right now. Just like in high school, you should be out, doing searches and looking for them out to those donors and foundations outside. Even your parents' employers, your employers. Do not forget the employers and outside organizations. You keep in mind it can be based on anything. Um, my interest in band, my interest in sports, my interest in so many different things. Keep applying for multiple scholarships because you can get 10 $500 scholarships. Bam, you got a $5,000 there. Instead of just saying, oh, I only want to go for the big one. Because the big ones are more competitive. Sometimes the littler ones people don't even try for. So make sure you're trying for everything to get as much money as you can. On our website, you'll see all of these websites available. This is the ones that are noted by the Department of Education that have been allowed to be put out there for students. Anytime you would go out to one of these sites and you would start to apply for something, please remember that you should never have to give your social security number to apply for a scholarship, and you should never pay for a scholarship. So if they say, give me $5 and I'll sign you up for that, you need to immediately get off of that. That is scam. They cannot ask you to pay for a scholarship application. So how much federal aid can you get? We're going to look at what we are doing for this current school year just because it gives you a kind of an idea of what's out there. Um, the amounts next year for like the grants and stuff, that can change every year because that's based on the federal funding from the government. This year, if you have a zero expected family contribution, the maximum Pell Grant you will get for a total of 2 terms is $6,495. Half of that would be fall, half of that would be spring. The federal work study will depend on how many people we have say yes to federal work study and how many meet the guidelines of what they put out there to try and get the maximum number of people aid. One year it was $1,000. Some years it was up to $4,000. Some years it's up to $6,000. It just depends upon the funding that we get from the states, okay, and the government. So if you are a freshman, for 0 to 29 earned credit hours, you will get 5,500 in Stafford loans. As a sophomore, you'll get 6,500, and for a junior senior, you'll get 7,500. This is based on being a dependent student. If you're independent, those numbers are going to be higher. So we always want to make sure that you realize that just because it's your second year here does not always mean that you are a true sophomore, because you have to earn those 30 hours credit to be considered a sophomore. So if you get halfway through the year and you go, oh, I went from freshman to sophomore year, contact Rate or Connect. We can then offer you more money for the spring term because your status has changed. So on this, you also have the Parent Plus loans that parents can apply for. They can take you all the way up to the cost of attendance minus the aid that we already offer you. And federal financial aid cannot exceed the cost of attendance. So when you're looking at federal financial aid, you are looking at loans, scholarships, all of that information, all that money. You can't just say, oh, that was an outside scholarship. No, that counts as financial aid because it's not something coming out of your pocket. So some of our important dates that are coming up right now, of course, the October 1st, the FAFSA is open. We have the spring classes are available on the web now, so make sure that you check your time tickets, as well as you're checking your academic pins to make sure that you don't have to contact your academic advisor in order to be able to register. Your bill must be under $1,000 in order for all your holds. You want to be looking at your holds to make sure that you get everything paid off. December 1st, we will start billing for spring term. The bills are due on December 15th, so make sure you're paying attention to all of the notifications right now. The first day of classes, January 10th. It's around the corner. It's kind of scary that it's that fast. And of course, our deadline dates for the FAFSA, the priority deadlines for the FAFSA is February 1st, but the last day to apply for the WSU online scholarship application is also February 1st. And that is a tight date. They will never reopen that application, so you need to do it right away. We always recommend that you try to get all your financial aid done over Thanksgiving before you come back to finish your finals, so that you're certain that you have all of your aid in ready to go. Okay, a couple things that we want to talk about. We have had some situations of proxy. If you want your mom, dad, somebody to be able to speak on your behalf and be able to pick up the phone and talk to us, you need to make them a proxy, and you need to let us know what you would like us to be able to speak to them about. There's nothing more frustrating than parents calling us and saying, I need to know this. My daughter said that I should just call. Well, you don't have them as a proxy. We tell them to hang up and call you. It's not one of those fun phone calls that we like to do because they're usually mad at us because they're going, well, she told me I could talk to you. I'm sorry, we have to have the documentation on the website, and you do that through your Wings Express. The same thing with the authorized user. That allows your parents to view and pay your bill. They get notifications of the bills. So it's really kind of a good thing if they are going to help you pay, set them up as an authorized user so they get the monthly notifications that there's an outstanding bill. So they don't get the surprise that you haven't checked your email for the last 3 months and now you've got $200 in late fees. When they would be like, I've had the money sitting in the bank waiting to find out how much I owe. If you do not list anyone, we can only speak to you. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. We want to talk a little bit about SAP, which is the Student Academic Progress. This is federal guidelines. We want to make sure that every undergraduate, graduate student, we are required by the Department of Education to run SAP every year. And if you don't meet SAP, you can always do what's called a SAP appeal. But this is something that we are required to do, and a lot of students don't understand. So if you do not complete your classes and you attempt classes, we have all these different pieces of the puzzle. I know you can kind of read this whole slide for a minute here, but I'm going to go on to the next one and kind of break down what you really have to be paying attention to. You need to look at your cumulative GPA. As an undergraduate, you must maintain a 2.0 GPA. You have to complete at least 67% of the classes that you attempt. So if you take 15 hours and you only complete 6 hours, you do not have a 67%. So you have to always make sure when you are adding and dropping classes during the term and you're changing things around, you want to make sure that you do not end up in a number under 67% because we're not going to be allowed to give you financial aid without you petitioning for it. And we also talk about the maximum time frame. This is a student has to complete their degree based upon the maximum number of hours of their degree. I know that sounds like a really crazy explanation, but if your degree says that you should finish it within 120 hours, you can only attempt 160 hours to either get it completed. If you go over that time frame, you're then going to have to do a SAP appeal to try to get future aid. And we look at that because the Department of Education says if you're not moving forward, we're not going to help you pay. So it's really important that you pay attention to these 3 pieces of the puzzle. As freshmen and sophomores, Even juniors, you're probably looking at the cumulative GPA and the completion rate. The maximum time frame will come into play more for seniors or a fifth-year student. So you want to be very conscientious of your time frame to make sure you get everything completed. There are aggregate limits on aid, so we have to that's why they have this, is so that you can hopefully have enough aid to get through paying for your schooling. So a couple tips that we want to remind you. Watch your Wright State email. Anything that comes for Raider Connect, we do not just send it out for our health. I am saying that in all seriousness. We get people that say, well, I get somebody from Raider Connect and I just keep throwing away. I don't even read them. Well, we're asking for eligibility requirements. We're asking for, your bill. We're sending out the notifications because we're required to by the government. We don't just send it out because we want you to have fun with our things. There's usually a reason. A lot of times we aren't able to disperse your aid because we're missing a document and we need it. So please be very conscientious of it. Make sure you contact us for any type of special circumstances like loss of income, extraordinary expenses, and make sure to use the Raider Connect website. We have loads and loads of information out there about the loans, scholarships, grants, SAP appeals, external scholarships. There is so much information on our site. We just don't want you to miss it. Please also make sure you're watching your A to Z index. So if you have a question about something, go to the A to Z index and look it up. There's lots of information out there. You want to make sure that you're going to the right people if you need assistance. The academic calendar. This is a really important tool that is on our website. It tells you deadlines. Deadline. When's the first day you can register? When's the last day you can register? When's the first day you can drop? When's the last day? All those things are out there. When the refund periods are, when you need instructor approval. All of those dates are out there. Please make sure you pay attention because there is a full term, there's an A term, B term. So an A term is the first half of a term. So that's like, for this term, that was August to October. And B term was like November through December. Okay. So you always want to make sure that when your class is attending, you're making sure that you're looking at the proper column to follow the rule of the class you're taking. If you're taking a full term, it's always going to be the first column. I just want you to pay attention to that because the terms are at the top, and sometimes people start scrolling down and they see 3 dates and they just say, oh, I'll take this date. So make sure you're in the proper columns when you're looking at it. You want to make sure if you have private health insurance through your parents or through CareSource or any of those other programs out there, make sure to cancel it online. You want to do that prior to the end of the first week of class because it's almost $1,000 error. If you don't need the insurance, don't pay for it. Just like the Student Legal Services. I highly recommend people keep it because it's only $11 and it's a great program that you can have a lawyer go to court with you for $11. So it's really a great program. They can help you read contracts. They can do wills. I've seen them do divorces. I've seen them do childcare, tons of different things. So it is a great program. It's only $11. The other program we really want to talk about is the counseling and wellness fees. This is for all of the therapists on campus. We want to make sure that you have a healthy mind and whatever. It is $20 a term for unlimited visits. It is a great thing. You're overwhelmed and you want to talk to someone, make an appointment with a counseling and wellness and they can sit down and talk to you. Something's stressing you with your personal life, they're there. So please keep that in mind. It also, it's a great program. We don't want people to be, having issues. That's why we're out there to help you, get through college and to be of, safe mind and body. The academic calendar also talks about holidays, and it also has the exam schedule for the term. Really important things. So you want to be out there paying attention to those dates. The thing is when people say nobody ever told me, it's published on our site. And so we go, I'm sorry, it's out there. It's out there for everyone. You need to be paying attention to it. So if you need help, please contact Raider Connect. We are there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 8:30 to 5. We do ask that you check in at our kiosks with your UID, and make sure that you check in by 4:30 if you want to be seen and taken care of by 5. The problem is all of our support areas close a little bit before 5. So if you're coming in at 5 to 5 with a major problem, we might not be able to fix it for you in 5 minutes. Okay. And on Wednesday, we're there from 9:30 to 5. We do have an email, we have our website, lots of information out there that we can do for you. So, what kind of questions do you have for me before we go on to the rest of it?
It's a lot of pressure, Aja.
I know, see, I am. I'm making her out there. So, a couple of the other things that you can look at is there's going to be all the different scholarships, and of course you were going to talk about Mr. Scott, you were going to talk about the federal work study and stuff.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to make sure that we do everything we can for you. And we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your experience here. Please use Rater Connect. Use your academic advisors. If you have to, we have a retention team that can come in and help you. Student advocacy. Don't forget about all the programs on campus that can help you.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Rainey, for all of that great information. And these are just some last things that I kind of just want to go over, as you made some really great points. So number one, I also appreciate you reminding students that there's only so much time that students are given and credit hours that students are given to complete degrees before you go into like a lot of not only just the academic struggles, but the financial pieces that are a part of that as well. A lot of students also don't know that like if you fail failing courses is also like a piece of that. Like the financial ramifications of all of that as well. So I appreciate you getting into all of that. So in order to avoid some of those things, one really great resource that's on campus, in addition to, particularly this information was sent to Black African students on campus. So another great resource that students have, in addition to the culture and identity centers, is being able to utilize your student success coach as well. So each student is assigned to a student success coach. It goes by your last name. So if you go on to the university website, you go to Student Success Center or Academic Center, or if you go to the Student Success Academic Support, you'll go on there, you'll see Rowdy Rater, and you'll also see the names of all of the individual success coaches, and your last name is assigned to like the respective coaches. And that'll be throughout the entirety of your time here at Wright State, unless they switch up letters themselves or someone else comes in and then replaces them. So feel free to go in there, jump in, and then ask different questions. They will be helpful in terms of being able to course correct or put in any types of interventions that you may possibly need, or help you to identify the interventions that you will need. Essentially, what it is there to do is to help make sure that it catches you before you fall. Oftentimes, the biggest mistake that a lot of students make is that they will come at the very end of the semester, once a lot of things at that point are really going to be finalized. So it's really very little that offices are going to be able to do with 2 weeks left in the semester. So the earlier on that you are building these relationships with your student success coach is going to be a lot better for you in the end if you do begin to see yourself struggling. So again, you can go on there. They also have social media where you can follow them on the different respective pages, and then go in and then see, what services that they also afford. The other thing too that's pretty cool on their website is that you'll see that there's tutoring services, and then the Math Learning Center, and then the academic calendar, as Rainey also pointed out, as well as other resources. So there's a lot of great tools on there that will be helpful for you, that'll be able to help you successfully navigate the institution. I didn't know my picture was down here at the bottom because it makes me look pretty weird. Let me pull this over. All right. So that is that. And then the next piece is looking for jobs. So again, as Rainey stated, we often have students that get a lot of federal work study dollars that don't use them at all or very much underuse these dollars. This is a great resource to have. As one, she stated that when you complete your W-2 and you do your tax return, you'll get a lot more of that money back versus if you were going to apply for a job off campus. But the other thing too is that it does provide you the opportunity to literally like work and study at the same time. So I have student workers that half the time I recognize personally that it's not like you all get paid a ton of money. So I do try to build in opportunities where the students are just literally up there and literally getting paid to study, unless there's major things that we have going on. Typically, a lot of the offices around the university can be a little bit flexible, some more than others, depending on what the nature of the work is. But once you go onto Handshake, I don't know what the necessarily what the website is. So I'm different. So I'm a university official, so it looks different for me. But if you go to Handshake, and then once you get in, you'll be able to look at on the side where it says the job postings, and it'll tell you all of the jobs that are available. It'll also let you know when these jobs expire. So at this point, we're kind of late in the academic semester, so you can assume that many of these positions are going to be starting for the spring semester. So there are a lot of them that have been posted. Some of them are closing within this next week. Some of them are still open up until the end of the semester. You can see how many people, I think, hopefully for you all, you can see how many people have also applied for some of those positions. One cool thing that I will say that work as someone who used to also work on campus and utilize work study funds is that you have the opportunity to also work in something that may be completely unaffiliated with your major of interest just in general. So some of the cool activities with the student activities board, the university activities board, you can do that. There are some other positions like over in the Office of Disability Services. They are always looking for student employees over there. Even though they says that they have 110 applications, I promise you they are always looking for students over in that area. But having the opportunity to also proctor tests for students with disabilities is also a really cool opportunity. And I was a communication arts major myself, so me looking at this and seeing like, oh, they're looking for a writer in the Student Guardian, or the Guardian, which is a student newspaper, that would be a cool opportunity too. So again, most students who receive financial aid typically, I don't know the percentage specifically, but there's a good percentage of students that are awarded financial aid in the form of loans and things like that, that are also offered opportunities for federal work study dollars. So if you see that pop up, I would definitely recommend taking the opportunity to look at what jobs are available, and then applying for those jobs as well.
Keep in mind, some of those jobs too are federal work study only jobs and
Yeah,
others are not. So sometimes when you see a high number of applicants,
yeah,
they may not have had federal work study and they just had to decline them because they're not allowed to hire anybody but a federal work study student. So just because there's like 100 people that applied for that job does not mean that they were all qualified
yeah. And
or
actually,
qualified at all.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. So there were two jobs that I had posted. Well, technically, I hired for three positions, but there were two job postings that I posted, and one of them I couldn't hire anybody in the pool because it was work study only, and it was students who weren't eligible for work study that applied for the job. So yes, like that is a really good point to acknowledge as well. Even if you see all those numbers, not all of those students are going to be qualified for those positions because many of them are just work study in general. And two, the other thing is that if you see, so I think general, the number that I've seen has been like $2,000. So part of that is like the place where you're going to be working. So I have a budget that allows me to also pay students up to a certain amount as well. So you're going to be getting paid from from your federal work study as well as the job in and of itself. So don't just take it and say like, oh, I can only work this amount of money. There's a whole process that gets calculated into how many hours you can actually work. So so that'll be your federal work study plus what the organization or the department that you're going to be hired into, what they can also pay as well if they have federal work study dollars or they have a bigger budget to also pay for you to work there as well. So those are good things to keep in mind. So thank you for sharing that, Rainey.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, going into the scholarship piece of it, the money that you do not have to pay back. So this is Belinga specific. So it's cool to hear that there are 1,100 donor funded scholarships that Wright State has. We have six of them through the Belinga Center. So if you go to the Belinga webpage, so if you go to Wright State University and you go to the Division of Inclusive Excellence, or more specifically, the Belinga webpage, you'll see on the right hand side, it'll take you through all of the different centers. But we have a couple of different drop downs on our page. But if you go to scholarships in particular, it'll put you on this landing page and it'll tell you all of the specific scholarships that we have available. So, Asia, what I will say is that I will definitely remember your name because you did show up to this, so it'll make it easier. But some of the scholarships have a little bit more flexibility than others. Some of them are more program specific, and it depends on like GPA requirements. So there are a lot more restrictions with some scholarships than others. But like one we had, what was it? I think it was the Giorgio McBeath Memorial Scholarship. Literally, there were only six students that were in the College of Engineering. There's no minimum GPA requirement at all. All they had to do was be an African American student enrolled in the College of Engineering or Computer Science, whatever major in that area. There were literally only eight students actually that were a part of the college. Six of them had no scholarships whatsoever. So six people were awarded $1,400 scholarships simply because they were a part of that. And that was the amount of money that we could award for the complete year. Some scholarships have fewer dollars than others, but all that to say, to know what you are qualified for, just go to the Belinga website, look at the scholarships that are available. You can also reach out to me. Once you all start applying for scholarships, those will be dispersed to all the areas that you are qualified for. You can always check in and then see, hey, I think I qualify for this. Can you let me know if my name pops up? If I look at your information and it's not there, and if I think there is a mistake, then I'll definitely reach out to make sure that that is accurate. Otherwise, it's also good to kind of keep in touch with the Belinga Center, not to drown me in phone calls or anything, but if you are looking for some scholarship dollars and things like that, it is helpful to say, "Hey, my name is Aja, and I'm looking to see what scholarships I'm eligible for. Can you like let me know?" Or, "Hey, I haven't heard anything. I'm just looking to follow up with like whatever." Not saying you should hassle anybody, but it did work for one student last semester as I just threw her the money because I was tired of. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. So, so,
Oh,
so all of that to say that those are ways that you can look at scholarship opportunities that are available. And two, you can see some of the past recipients, students. We didn't do it these last couple of years. Definitely couldn't do it this past year, largely because I was transitioning into the Belinga Center. I didn't start until January. So a lot of these scholarships, we weren't able to do like the Photoshops and the normal dinner that we typically have. But some of the students who were awarded scholarships this past fall were invited to the Sapphire Jubilee, which is the annual fundraising event that's held by the African American Alumni Society, where they raise like thousands of dollars for student scholarships. So over the course of the past year, or this past academic year, I think they were able to donate more than $35,000 in scholarships to students, which was a huge benefit. So that is what we have. That's the information that I have to share. Now, are there any final questions that you may have, Asia or Rainey?
I just want to make sure that you go through your Wings Express and go to student financial aid, scholarship applications. Make sure you do the online scholarship application there. Make sure in December you start checking your eligibility requirements for the following year so that we're certain to have all of your financial aid in alignment by March so that we're ready to start packaging things together for the following school year. So it's just a quick reminder, you cannot do financial aid early enough to satisfy us because we really want it up and running as early as possible so you don't miss out on any extra money.
Yeah. All right. Well, if nothing else, oh, when will the 2020 unaccompanied minor form be available?
Actually, that will not be out yet. We are still working on those. Did you use it this year?
That was a great question. I was not even familiar with that.
Because if you used it this year, you would do a renewal, and they will put that into your eligibility requirements for a renewal thing. Some of those forms, because we have not gotten the final say from the Department of Education as to what their requirements are and the wording, every year they like to make it a little tricky for us. Um, we start creating forms and then we have to edit them. As soon as we have a good form that we feel that we can meet the federal requirements with, we will start posting them. A lot of any of the adjustment forms normally do not come out until February, March, because we try to close the one school year before we start opening the second school year so that people are making sure to use the correct new ones for the new school year. We don't really want to offer like the unaccompanied minor one right now because we have people that are coming in for spring. We want to make sure that they're using the correct form for spring until after they get past that window, and then we can then open it like midterm. That's why I say like February, March, probably before we'll start putting most of those types of forms out there. As to like the regular eligibility requirements, dependent verification worksheets and things like that, those will be coming out earlier because those are pretty standard. But some of the specialty ones we kind of hold back because of the multiple year scenario that we run into.
All right, awesome. Well, again, thank you for attending to our student, and then thank you, Rainey, for being able to present all of that great information. All of that is super helpful. It's helpful for me too, for when students call or send emails and have questions. It reminds me to send them to you. So I appreciate appreciate all of that. That was a joke, by the way.
I can send them right back. Remember that.
Yeah, yeah. Boomerang. There we go.
There you
All
go.
right. Well, thank you two so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Have a good night.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Bye.